No. Oh, no kidding. You're like, Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Ellensburg City Council meeting. This is Monday, December 4th, 2023. The meeting's called to order. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Council Member David Miller.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Beauchamp.
Here.
Elliott.
Here.
Goodlow.
Here.
Lowquist.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Thompson.
Here.
And Adam Nguyen has requested an excused absence. He had work.
Second.
Motion and second to excuse Councilmember Nguyen. All in favor?
Aye.
I too vote aye. Opposed? Motion carries. First order of business is to swear in our new council people and some old council people who are newly elected. With it.
So if you want to stand.
Members Elliott, Beauchamp, and Thompson. Together.
Everybody together.
Yeah. You weren't just elected, were you? Oh, no. You'll in January.
It's good. This is a special. This is special. This is special. This is so many.
So the reason we're doing this at this meeting, and I think we'll do it again in January, is because council members Beauchamp and Elliott were appointed to their positions. So and council member Monica Miller, who Josh Thompson is replacing, was also appointed. And the rule is that they get sworn in at the next, after the election is certified. Yeah, and it has been. So.
Okay. So raise your right hand. I state your name. Do solemnly swear and affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States of America and the state of Washington and the laws and ordinances of the city of Ellensburg, and that I will faithfully, honestly, and impartially perform the duties of the office of city council member for the city of Ellensburg, Washington, according to the law and the best of my ability. Great. Congratulations.
Yes. This. It's you.
Sarah got flowers.
Yeah.
I'm blushing. Thank you.
I think I'm behind. Okay, there are no proclamations, no awards or recognitions, so we are at approval of the agenda.
Madam Mayor, I move approval of the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Two vote aye, opposed. Motion carries. Consent agenda is before you.
Madam Mayor, I move consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
I two vote aye, opposed. The motion carries. We are at petitions, protests, and communications, 6A. This is board and commission appointments. Page 129. Is there a staff report?
Heidi Burns, Turnaway City Manager. The recommendation is coming from the Affordable Housing Commission to reappoint two members of the commission, both Kim Funston and Courtney Garzone, for another term.
I'll recommend appointment. Is there any questions? Discussion or motion?
Move to affirm it, or do we move to appoint?
Move to appoint.
Point.
Move to appoint.
I would move to appoint Courtney Garzone and Kim Funston to reappoint to the Affordable Housing Commission.
Second.
Motion and second to reappoint Kim Funston and Courtney Garzone to the Affordable Housing Commission. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Two vote aye, opposed. Motion carries. Okay, we are at citizen comment on non-agenda issues. So the council rules for speaking on non-agenda items are as follows. Each speaker's comments are limited to 3 minutes. Speakers may only address the council on matters which concern city business or over which the council has control. Speakers are cautioned not to engage in conduct that disrupts, disturbs, or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of the council meeting. Speakers may not identify themselves as candidates for elective office or make any statements which assist or discuss the campaign of a candidate for elective office or discuss or campaign for or against a ballot proposition. Please note that the city council rules provide that no action will be taken by the council at the meeting at which the subject is first introduced during the citizen comment period. I will first recognize those attending in person to speak, followed by and those who have signed up first, followed by those who are attending on Zoom that raise their virtual hand. When you're recognized, you must state your name and whether you live in Ellensburg, Kittitas County, or elsewhere. State the topic on which you wish to speak and state whether you are representing yourself or others. We'll start with Jeff Whitman.
It's just me again. Basically the same thing. It's a couple of comments. I noticed the article in the paper talking about the plowing. I got a kind of a chuckle out of that because it sounds like the sidewalks in the Legion would be about the last areas that would be plowed by the city of Ellensburg. And I think safety was one of the things that everybody's been pounding on up here that needs to be done. Okay, where are our priorities? It just, I do appreciate the fact that we did get to go up and measure up again for the fire lane. And I think that we haven't had our meeting yet, but it should be this week to allow to have the easement to help with the parking up there. And I know there's a couple new sets of plans out there that I haven't seen yet. Is there any copies of those here tonight by any chance? Okay. Because I'm curious to look at those and see if we got exactly out of that what we talked about we could get, because it helps both of us. Basically, that's about it. There's no sense on pounding on the same old stuff again. We just care about what goes on the hill up there. I guess that's my bottom line. Thank you.
Thank you. Angie Lang. Speaking on Craig's Hill.
Of course. Angela Lang, resident here in Ellensburg. I'm speaking for myself, but I have a lot of people that always ask me to speak for them too. So first of all, congratulations, Joshua Thompson. I think you're going to be a great fit here on the city council. I want to thank Heidi for coming up on the hill and meeting with the Legion members. I know that it was on both parts was a great day. So thank you for that. And Adam is not here. And I met with Adam and his wife with Chuck, and it was a great meeting. So to be able to get to know him a little bit and to explain our views from the beginning was a great thing. And I met with Sarah as well. She invited me into her business, and that was a wonderful meeting as well. Thank you so much for that. Where's the clock? Okay. It's a little thing. So anyway, I'm going to read from my notes. I was asked what I would like to see happen. My answer is simple. It's not about me. The residents respectfully ask that the Kittitas County Commissioners to step in, hold a town hall meeting, as well as to have the county commissioner, or I should say the county engineer, do an extensive land survey. And the reason, when I had the expert witness, all right, not witness, well, actually she was, do an interview with me, she raised concerns about the hill, about the stability of the hill with the trees, with the bushes, and those things need to be addressed. When Brad was talking about putting the sidewalk across the top of the hill, it would scrape all of that, the sage and all that stuff off of there, and the root systems would be gone. So I think they need to be looked at a little bit further for that reason. Anyway, we really do want to have the county commissioners set a meeting, a town hall meeting like they did up in Cle Elum, to discuss this, have the city representatives there, have the county commissioners there, and have the residents, whether they're the ones that live on the hill or in town or out in the county. It affects everybody that uses the hill. So that is my stance anyway. And I will be talking with Brett again, because I really think that they play a part in this. And I've been told by different people that, oh, they already know about this. Well, they need to be speaking. And I'm very thankful for the two of you that actually spoke last time at the city council meeting, saying that we need to slow down and listen to the people. So I thank you, David, and I thank you, Sarah, for that. I appreciate that.
Nicole? No, Nicole Paxton?
Hi, Nicole Paxton. I'm a resident of the city of Ellensburg, as well as the auxiliary president for the American Legion, here speaking in regards to Craig's Hill at Reed Park. I just want to take a moment and thank you for considering the option of pushing the bollards into the park as to accommodate parking similar to what we currently have been using across from the Legion. I also just wanted to take a moment to thank Heidi Cernaway, as well as Fire Marshal and City Engineer, for meeting with us up at the Legion so that we had a chance to visualize in person the process and where the fire lane would be and how that would impact us. So that's all. I just wanted to thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Terry Marcel? Is there, so the blue sky counter is just this little thing. Can we make it the big clock again easily?
We're having technical difficulties with that tonight. Sorry.
Because it is harder for folks to see. Including me.
I just want to say to you guys, I'm not speaking, I mean, obviously I am, but I just want to tell you that I think one of the most redeeming qualities of being a leader is to, whether you're a parent, a boss, whoever you are, to back off occasionally and listen to people that, maybe care, not more than you, of course, but, we aren't always right. And I don't know. I feel like if we look at everything going on up there on the hill with a little bit wider of a lens and think about everybody. I mean, it affects everybody in our county. Like, people come to Ellensburg from out in the corners. They get a hamburger. They go up on the hill. They eat. You know, they look at the view. It isn't just the city. It's all of us. And it always has been. I mean, I don't know. I really, really feel like if you want to push this so far forward, why can't we put it on the ballot for 2024? I mean, let the people speak. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Penny Whitman.
Penny Whitman, Ellensburg. I would just like to say once again that the Hill is very important to everyone in our valley and all the people that come here from different places. I would also like to say that I would love to see some of the things, if you want to put a sidewalk in, put it in the park. Let them walk through the park where they're not on the road anywhere. They're away from all the traffic. That way, we don't have to worry about that. The other thing I would like to see is if we're going to do that, who's going to maintain that sidewalk? When we have been up there and Jeff has been the past commander for 14 plus years, we serviced that area up there. We plowed in front and around for our people to have somewhere to park. We took care of that area. When I needed to call, I would call the city, and because people couldn't get up the hills on Alder or Maple, and I would ask them to please send a truck, put some salt, sand, something, before someone can't stop going down that hill and we have a serious accident. So I know from past history that these things need to be looked into. And I was born and raised in this town, as I have said, and so I know what the weather can do in an instant. And we have to be able to maintain those areas. And it's important for our veterans to be able to walk across that road anywhere and not have ice and snow on it. We made sure we put sand down ourselves. Jeff would go to Knutson's and buy bags and bags and bags of sand. We put in the parking lot so our veterans had somewhere to walk and was safe. So it's really important. I would hate to see anyone, a child, get hit. I would hate to see anything like that happen to anyone in our town. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Stephen Matt Willard, I think you want to comment on something that is on the agenda. Okay. Yes. Okay. So we're going to go. Well, is there anyone else in the room who'd like to speak? Ma'am.
Good evening, City Council members. Terry, Heidi, Beth, thank you very much for this opportunity to address the council. I wanted to take some time to thank Joshua and Heidi and Derek Mayo, the city engineer, and Joe Delvo, the fire marshal, and everybody who came up a couple of Tuesdays ago to look at possibly how we can collaborate on the property in front of the Legion so that we don't lose the parking for the veterans who may need to use a walker or have trouble just even, getting around under their own steam. And then I also noticed today when I was perusing the website that your website talks about snow plowing and snow removal. So when I looked at the map that's on there, there's a color-coded map that has a priority for the streets in Ellensburg. And I noticed that the veterans, the American Legion Hall, is not on a priority. I also believe that the commuter bus probably goes up there. Now, my question is, when I look at the Adult Activity Center over on between Pine and Ruby, you cannot access the Adult Activity Center from Ruby. You have to from Pine, you have to access it from Ruby. Well, guess what? Two streets are priorities. Now, if you're a veteran, you can get to the Activity Center, but you can't to the Legion. It's a secondary street. So I would like to ask that someone think about maybe someone who needs to get up there using a commuter bus. So thank you again.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room who would like to speak? Ma'am?
Teresa Plough, 140 Woodhouse Loop. And let's see, it's going to be real short.
And where you, not your address, but where you, in the city, in Kittitas County and
In Kittitas County.
your topic.
And let's see, it has to do with minutes for the commission meetings.
Okay.
I rely on those, the ones that post those. I like to keep an eye on just all kinds of things that are going on in the city. And I've noticed that some of them are coming out like 2 months late. And it's too late for me to be able to actually see what's going on. So thank you for those. If I don't know what extenuating circumstances happen, but if you could work on getting those out to the public, we'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Mr. Kelleher? Name and residency, topic, representing yourself or others.
Thank you, Mayor. Pat Kelleher representing myself. I live in the county. I'm here to speak about Unity Park. I submitted extended remarks to the city clerk that I'm sure she's made available to you. Is handicap parking a federal law? It is, because of the American with Disabilities Act of 1990. 33 years later, 5 city parks do not comply with federal law. The city is going to spend $2.6 million to remodel Unity Park. Not one penny will be spent to bring our current parks into federal law compliance. This is a sad statement to our neighbors with additional needs. Additionally, the Unity Park remodel will remove 7 existing alley parking spaces to allow building to the alley property line. Today and in the past, vehicles could bypass daily service trucks stopped in the alley by passing between the trucks and behind the existing parking stalls. In the future, the functionality of the alley will collapse multiple times during the day, preventing vehicle use, while adjacent businesses are receiving their deliveries. The orange construction fence will soon go up. It could go up tomorrow. If the orange construction fence is just installed tomorrow along the alley, you will see how rapidly the alley collapses. This happened at Cora Street. The city did an illegal lot line adjustment that didn't extend Helena. You didn't extend Christie Street to develop your well. The city chooses which laws to follow, which development standards to apply. For a private investor, developer, they got to meet the requirements. For the city, they're allowed to look the other way and make special cases. I think if you put up that orange fence, you'll see what will happen very quickly. It should be mitigated before it's too late. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room who would like to speak? Noah Levine. You're unmuted.
Yes, good evening, council. Can you hear me?
Yes, please state your name, where you live, and the topic on which you wish to speak.
Noah Levine. I've lived in Ellensburg for about 14 years, and I thought this was public comment.
It is.
Okay, yeah, so I have a public comment to make.
On what topic?
I guess on the control structure of America and which applies to states and cities and every aspect of life.
I'm sorry, that's not something that the city council can do anything about.
It's part of the city. I just wasn't descriptive enough with, I mean, I wasn't prepared to tell you exactly what I was going to be talking about. So it just kind of caught me off guard. So
You need to speak on something that the council, which concerns city business or over which the council has control.
okay, yeah. I feel like the big lumber yards corporations have way too much say in our country, and so I was going to try to talk about what these, how we're deforesting our area here. and,
Sorry,
I
that
just
is
really-
outside of the city's jurisdiction.
What about talking about how we're going to expel niggers and kikes out of our,
I'm sorry. Thank you.
and because Jews did 9/11,
Please mute the speaker.
we're going to send kikes to the Congo and
Please
niggers to Israel.
mute the speaker. Thank you. Okay. Amir Rosenbaum. Please state your name, whether you live in Ellensburg or Kittitas County or elsewhere, the topic on which you would wish to speak, and whether you're representing yourself or others.
Hello, my name is Amir Rosenbaum, and I'm a resident of Ellisburg. I have been for at least 8 years, give or take. And the topic I would like to speak on tonight is equity. Is that fine with the council?
Equity as it pertains to the city of Ellensburg and something we can do something about.
Yes, no, it's a definite representative of the political and societal aspects of Ellensburg. Am I good to go?
I don't think so. That is too vague.
That's too vague when I'm talking about
There is
equity in our city.
Is there a specific request?
If I need to be more specific, I can be more specific. I just thought that that was specific enough. My apologies, council member.
What would,
I would like to talk specifically about the equity that is or is not available pertaining to certain minority groups in the city of Ellensburg, Washington. Is that specific enough, or should I be more
is there a
specific?
specific request of the council that we can address?
So if I'm asking and wishing to speak on topics that pertain to the city of Ellensburg in regards to the mention of equity, like I mentioned, all of a sudden it's not specific enough that I'm not able to speak because for some reason you're not allowing me to speak about equity and equality in Ellensburg. I find that very one-sided.
I'm asking
Thank
you to
very much.
continue specifically.
Perfect. I would like to ask why a 2% minority in Ellensburg is in charge.
Thank you. Mr. Ward, Richard Ward. Please begin by stating your name and whether you live in Ellensburg, Kittitas County,
Yes,
or
hello.
elsewhere.
Can you hear me?
Mr. Ward? Yes.
All
So
right, Richard, 88 State Street in town.
the topic on which you wish to speak.
The same thing, equity. What I wanted to say was diversity means fewer white people. Inclusion means the exclusion of white people.
I'm sorry, that's not allowed. Okay. Judy Stroyer. Please begin with your name, this topic on which you wish to speak.
Yes. Hi, I'm Colin. And yes, I would like to talk about the ordinance crafting procedure that your council uses for creating its ordinances. Are you guys beyond criticism, or are you going to let me have my speech?
I think that is a topic we can address.
Okay, that's great. Well, you guys are
What is
actually
your
going to
name
let.
and where
I
name-
just told you, Judy Schroyer, listen, authoritarian lady, let us speak. Your job isn't to filter free speech. Your job is to listen. We have 3 minutes. Are you going to let me speak, or are you going to keep interrupting me?
What is,
Do I have a chance to
allowing
speak?
you
Is
to
it my
speak.
turn? I'll go. Okay, thanks very much. Thanks. That's very gracious of you. Okay, well, the reason why I'm calling is because it seems that the baby boomer generation has forgot what the First Amendment is. And you might want to call that a personal attack or hey, that's
relate this to the ordinance procedure?
okay, I will. Thanks for another interruption there. Your Office of Equity and Inclusion is a racist body. Are you going to allow me?
We don't have an Office of Racial Inclusion. Yeah, and his name was not Judy. Ursula Haberbeck.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Please state your
Phenomenal.
name, whether you live in Ellisburg and the topic on which you wish to speak.
Wonderful. My name is Ursula Heverbeck. I do live in Ellensburg, and I'm sorry, some of those previous comments have me a little jumbled.
Me too.
Phenomenal. I just wanted to say, I would like all of you to look up gtvflyers.com and maybe you would explain some of the comments that were said.
So
also wanted to say, fuck the kikes and your censorship.
Okay. Okay. That was unpleasant for everyone. I understand. Trying to do better, getting it nipped in the bud, but as you heard, it's so moving on. 8A public hearings. This is the purpose of this legislative hearing is for the City Council to consider first reading of ordinance 4934, amending the 2023 to 2024 biennial budget. The public hearing is now open. I ask for your cooperation in the following procedure. Everyone will be given an opportunity to be heard. The city clerk will be making a recording of the proceedings. I will first recognize requests to testify from anyone attending this hearing in person, followed by any persons attending remotely via Zoom. If you wish to participate virtually via Zoom, you must raise your virtual hand on the Zoom meeting screen or press *9 if you're connected by telephone and wait until I have recognized your request and you have been unmuted. When you are invited to speak, begin by stating your name and address and indicate whether you are speaking for yourself individually or as a spokesperson for a certain group or both. Please speak slowly and clearly. Only one person will be allowed to speak at a time. Any questions of staff are to be directed through the council. Before we hear from the audience, is there a staff report to be presented?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. I'm Keith Bassett with the city's Finance Department. The public hearing and proposed ordinance meets the statutory requirements for a mid-biennial review process required for cities budgeting biannually and makes amendments to the 2023-2024 biennial budget to reflect changes in operational requirements and adjustments to capital project plans approved through prior council action, along with modifications to the biennial budget as proposed by the city manager. The council adopted the 2023-2024 biennial budget in December 2022 and subsequently amended the biennial budget in September 2023. Since the supplemental budget was adopted, adjustments have been reviewed and approved by council as part of the ongoing review and approval of contracts and purchases. The anticipated budget impacts are presented as part of the city standard agenda reports that accompanies the initial request. The proposed ordinance will officially authorize those expenditures in support of the approved projects and program changes. Additional budget adjustments were identified as a result of a review of anticipated expenditures, expenditure trends, and current expenditure authority. These items provide the necessary budget to maintain the programs and projects previously adopted by the City Council, comply with external regulations, and update originally budgeted amounts to current forecasts. Items that have previously come before the council include grant-funded projects and programs such as the Fish Food Bank expansion, project, Safe Streets for All grant funded comprehensive safety action plan. Grant funded support of 6-year transportation improvement plan projects and operating grants for Ellensburg Public Transit. Also utility bill software implementation project costs, installation of field lights at Rotary Park. Compensation adjustments is approved in collective bargaining agreements and pay resolutions, although I'd note the pay resolution is later on the agenda this evening. Premium costs associated with medical insurance, increases in lodging tax fund expenditures to meet the pledged contribution to the county-wide consolidated lodging tax process. Field house design and engineering from the insurance recoveries on the Ellensburg Rec and Recreation Center. Items moved between budget years are comprised of carry forward council adopted project budgets unspent in 2022 for expenditure in 2023, or budget adjustments to reflect changes to unanticipated changes to projects between 2023 and 2024, including carry forward of the unspent balance on the city county economic development plan contract with TIP Strategies, a joint purchase with Kittitas County Sheriff's Office of an armored vehicle, and carry forward of remaining COVID-19 state and local fiscal recovery funds, which would remain carried forward until they're expended, and adjustments due to timing of capital infrastructure projects. New items that haven't been previously approved by the council include additional expenditure authority for police operations in 2024, including increased costs of investigative and communication software, anticipated increase in jail medical and dispatching costs, a re-roof of the Stan Bassett Youth Center, telecommunication system extension at the request of Central Washington University to reach the airport hangar and flight technology facility, purchase and installation of a modular office at the city shop and warehouse, and increased costs of ensuring city operations. Details of each item by fund are included in table 1 of the agenda packet. A summary of impacts by fund is included in tables 2 and 3. Budget amendments in the proposed ordinance include updated revenue forecasts as appropriate and maintain anticipated 2023-2024 ending fund balances within the required fund balance thresholds. At the conclusion of the public hearing, staff suggests a motion to conduct first reading of mid-biennial review supplemental budget ordinance 4934. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The floor is open to testimony from the public. Does anyone from the public wish to make comments on this matter? If so, each person will have an opportunity to address the council for an initial period not to exceed 5 minutes. If more time is needed, it will be made available after everyone has had an opportunity to speak. Is there anyone who would like to speak to the budget? Does the staff have anything to add? Council, do you have any questions of the staff or public?
I need a clarification on the shared joint purchase with the Cass County's Office of an Armored Vehicle. So we already have that vehicle and we're sharing authority to, what exactly does that mean?
Yes, Madam Mayor, Councilmember Goodlow, that is a purchase that was approved as part of the adoption of the 2023-2024 budget to share the cost with the Kittitas County Sheriff's Office for a new vehicle to replace existing vehicles in both offices.
Okay, thank you. That went right over my head.
Is there any other questions? The public testimony portion of this hearing is now closed. Council may now begin its discussion and deliberation of this matter.
Madam Mayor, I move first reading of ordinance 4934.
Second.
Motion and second for first reading of ordinance 4934, the mid-biennial review supplemental budget ordinance. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. To vote aye, opposed? Motion carries.
An ordinance amending the 2023-2024 biennial budget of the city of Ellensburg as set forth in ordinance number 4900 and previously amended as set forth in ordinance number 4923 to adjust appropriations in the city's funds.
Okay, thank you. The next item is also a hearing. The purpose of this hearing is for the city council to consider amendments to the city's land development code and first reading of ordinance 4935, which would implement those changes. The public hearing is now open. I ask for your cooperation in the following procedure. Everyone will be given an opportunity to be heard. The city clerk will be making a recording of the proceedings. If you wish to participate in this hearing, you must raise your virtual hand on the Zoom meeting screen or press *9 if you are connected by telephone, and wait until I have recognized your request and you've been unmuted. You should then begin by stating your name and address and indicate whether you're speaking for yourself individually or as a spokesperson for a certain group, or both. Your testimony must only address the matter under consideration in this hearing. Any questions of staff are to be directed through the council. Each person will have an opportunity to address the council for an initial period not to exceed 5 minutes. If more time is needed, it will be made available after everyone has had an opportunity to speak. Before we hear from the audience, is there a staff report to be presented?
Yes, there is. Good evening, council members, Madam Mayor. My name is Jeremy Johnston with the Community Development Department. As you mentioned before you this evening, our land development code amendments. So the purpose of amendments to land development code is basically to bring our land development regulations to ensure consistency with the comprehensive plan and respond to changing conditions and needs of the city. The framework for amending the City of Ellensburg Land Development Code is found in City Code Section 15.250.100, and outlines a Type 5 review process, which includes an open record public hearing before the Planning Commission, and a recommendation to City Council. There are certain processes associated with the Land Development Code update. This include a SEPA determination based off of a SEPA checklist and a 60-day notice to commerce, both of which took place on October 10th, 2023. We received one comment during the SEPA comment period from Fennell Miller regarding the demolition ordinance that will be brought before you, and that was provided to the council members. And the City Council public hearing to consider the 2023 LDC amendments were noticed in a daily record on November 16th, 2023. Originally, there were 5 items that were being proposed during this cycle. One of these items, which deals with supportive housing facility standards, we received some late comments from Commerce that suggested some changes, so we pulled that so we can make sure this is consistent with Commerce expectations of this sort of ordinance. So there will be 4 items brought before you this evening. Under Ellensburg City Code 15.250, 3 criteria are provided for City Council to make decisions on land development code amendments. These include whether the amendment is in accordance with the comprehensive plan, whether the amendment will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or general welfare, and the amendment is not contrary to the best interests of the citizen and property owners of the city. So the first item before you this evening is a proposed amendment to amend the conditional use process. This amendment will reassign conditional use decisions to the hearing examiner. Currently, these decisions are made by the Planning Commission. Making this change will require amendments to code sections 15.110.060, which is the roles and responsibilities section, which define roles and responsibilities for elected officials, commissions, hearings examiner, and city staff. And it will also require an update to code section 15.210.050, which is the process table. So largely what this amendment will do, as I mentioned, is simply switch the responsibility of conditional use decisions from the Planning Commission to the hearings examiner. This would update this process table here, and as mentioned, it will update the role and responsibilities section. The specific changes are outlined in the ordinance 4935 that were provided in your review materials, but largely this is what the proposed amendment includes, is just that shift of responsibility for conditional use approvals. The Planning Commission recommended disapproval of this amendment during their public hearing. The second amendment for you this evening is the zoning amendment. If the council will recall, on October 2nd, I believe it was, of this year, we brought some comprehensive plan amendments before you. One of those amendments was a future land use and zoning conversion table. When we presented that amendment to you, I stated that we would be amending the zoning section to reflect the changes in the future land use zoning conversion table. And that is largely what this amendment is intended to do. So within this zoning section, each one of our zones is outlined. And there's a statement on which zone is appropriate or which future land use designations are appropriate for each zone. Basically, what we did here was we updated these sections. This is an example, the residential medium zone, to reflect that future land use zoning conversion table. So we eliminated the items that sort of created some ambiguity in terms of what zones were appropriate for what future land use designation. The table that the council voted to approve, and the second reading will be brought before you at the next council meeting. This is just a reflection of that. It's making sure we have consistency between what our comprehensive plan says and what our zoning section of code says. So largely what happens is underneath each one of these zoning designations, there's a statement in each one that states which future land use designations are appropriate for that zone. And then there's several sub items, and here you can see A, B, C, D, and E that create that quite frankly create some ambiguity in terms of what is appropriate. So that was the whole point of that future land use zoning table, was to get rid of that ambiguity so there's certainty and clarity when it comes to people wanting to apply for a different zone for their property, both for staff purposes as well as the public purposes. The Planning Commission did recommend approval of this item. And the next amendment, I'm going to have one of our senior planners come up and present this because she is much better versed in this than I am. And I imagine there might be some questions. So I will turn this over.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council, Stacy Henderson, Senior Planner, Community Development. I'm here to present the proposal to repeal and replace section 15280 Ellensburg Landmarks Register and Procedures. As there was a previous study session addressing this proposal in depth, I will try to keep today much more brief, but please feel free to ask questions later. I did include this visual just to kind of provide a reminder. It's a brief visual comparison of some of the main changes being proposed. The existing process for landmark registry property demolition review on the left, and the proposed new process for landmark register property demolition review on the right. Currently, only structures located within the local landmarks district or listed on the local landmarks register go through demolition review process or even design review process with the Landmarks Commission. That is not changing. The proposed changes to demolition ordinance still only apply to landmarks listed properties in the proposed ordinance, which is already under the jurisdiction of the Landmarks Commission. There is a proposed differentiation between the permit types as seen in the new subsection of code 15-280-110, application for demolition permit, demolition review standards. In the proposed ordinance, the Landmarks Commission would be reviewing a demolition permit application and either approving or denying a demolition permit, not issuing a certificate of appropriateness for a demolition. Per the existing code now, it is required that the applicant meet with the commission in a preliminary public meeting, not a hearing, but a meeting, to discuss alternatives to demolition. The intention being to have discussions on what demolition alternatives the applicant has explored. In the proposed ordinance, a pre-application meeting with the preservation planner would take place. As opposed to a public meeting with the same intention to discuss alternatives and options. Currently, persons aggrieved by the LDC decision may file an appeal reviewed by City Council. In the proposed ordinance, this would be changing as to have all landmarks design commission decisions appealable to the hearings examiner as opposed to City Council. So this would be for design review or demolition review. They would go to a hearing examiner now in the proposed ordinance. And then lastly, on demolition, currently there's no expiration of a certificate of appropriateness approval or denial for demolition. The proposed ordinance, and we did revise this based on comments from the study session, includes a provision for the approval or denial of a demolition expiring in 365 days from the date of issuance, with the opportunity for one 365-day extension pending director approval. And then the last slide, to help clarify the design review process overall, a few minor changes were made to the section of this ordinance that triggers the need for design review and the section that lists work exempt from design review. The term ordinary repair and maintenance was used in the model ordinance that we utilize from DAP and has been added to the draft to the definition section and review exemption section, which helps clarify for staff and property owners what gets reviewed and what doesn't. As you can see, additional clarification as to what type of work triggers a design review and what is exempt was expanded upon to clarify for everyone. Under exemptions, currently, if a property owner, the big change I wanted to mention, if a property owner or tenant in a landmark district or building want to paint the exterior of their home or storefront in a color that is different from the existing color, they need to submit a certificate of appropriateness and go through that process in order to get approved. And the proposed ordinance includes painting in under the exemptions. So they would be exempt from design review as long as it's a previously painted surface. And I went into depth on the study session of how that doesn't damage the building or anything. So it helps property owners be able to move faster with the process. So yeah, that's it. And then the Planning Commission recommended approval of this amendment at the November 9th meeting. Thank you for your time.
Okay. The final item before you, and I'm going to take a quick second. This was a citizen proposed amendment. And just before this hearing, we provided some comments from that citizen. Okay. So this item involves shared driveway standards. This amendment was brought before the Planning Commission during our last land development code cycle and was remanded by the Planning Commission for additional review and potential changes. The amendment has been amended from its original version. So this amendment specifically deals with number 2 there on the PowerPoint in front of you. Regarding standards for shared driveways. The current code reads shared driveways may access up to 5 lots, provided they are at least 15 feet wide and a maximum of 400 feet long. The only change being proposed here is to change the 5 lots to 9 lots. The Planning Commission recommended disapproval of this amendment at the public hearing. And that is the final item on our list. Staff is seeking determination on each one of these items by the City Council and performing first reading of ordinance 4935.
Thank you. The floor is open to testimony from the public. Each person will have an opportunity to address the council for an initial period not to exceed 5 minutes. If more time is needed, it will be made available after everyone has had an opportunity to speak. Mr. Willard, you had signed up, so I'm going to give you first.
Madam Mayor, as a preliminary matter, I think the comments that were received should be marked as an exhibit for the hearing. I don't.
So I will enter the comments received into the record
I think it'd be exhibit F.
as Exhibit F. Thank you.
Steve Willard, 1312 Sanders Road. I'm going to keep my initial testimony really specific to what you're looking at on the screen. So as Jeremy pointed out, the only change is 2A, the change from 5 lots to 9 lots. 9 lots is what is allowable for short plats. Prior to that, in number 1, and I'm glad Rich is here, in section 15.420.050 that talks about driveway standards, public works development standards, they include the International Fire Code and specifically fire access roads. So that is the overarching standard for driveways, which would require 2, if it was 5 lots or 9 lots, to comport with the International Fire Code, fire access road, which is compatible with the City of Ellensburg Public Works adopted standard. So the whole reason that I'm proposing this, it's very akin to a prior amendment that I proposed, which had short plats requiring between 1 year of approval to be finalized, which I think some of you on the council have even had experience with. Nearly impossible. State statute provides 5 years, and I think it's been changed. And when Jeremy came here from the county, he said, "Oh, I can't believe this." Anyway, there is no reason to capitate the number of lots. So we're not asking from a fire point of view to include distance, to amend the fire access code, to bend compliance with International Fire Code. But really what we're trying to advance is a concept to permit infill housing diversity for all of the strategies in the land use code. 0 lot line, cottage housing. It's going to be a combination of public streets, private drives, private alleys, and potentially private roads. And hopefully the city eventually, they got rid of a PUD ordinance. So many of the strategies, and I worked with Nancy on the land use code, that are in the land use code are not achievable with some of these mechanical limitations. So when I testified at the adoption of the land use code, there was such a need to get it adopted. City council was very nice. Bruce Tabb, everybody. I testified on every paragraph, and the answer was, yeah, we have to get this adopted. We'll come back and look at these things later. Now's the time. And so it's tough. Poor Kirsten, when she was here, she had a long list of things that needed to be looked at. It's hard to look at those changes in an omnibus way. So I'm here today for 1. Next year, I'm going to come back for a couple more. But anyway, so I'm not asking for something that doesn't comport with existing city code. City Public Works Standards has International Fire Code, Fire Access Road. Fire Access Road in the county system has no density limitation. Actually, if I were fire marshal, I wouldn't want unlimited density on a private drive. So what I've suggested is instead of 5 lots, you change it to 9. In the fire access code, there is no limitation, but I think it's prudent to have a number. And I think city staff was comfortable with that. And I'm here to answer questions if you want.
Thank you. Matt Willard, did you also want to speak?
I was going to speak.
So you're good? Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Seeing no one and no one online. Does staff have anything to add?
I do not, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any persons in the audience who would like to add non-repetitive information or evidence about this matter? Council, do you have any questions for staff or public? And if we could maybe be a little bit organized and start with 2301, the conditional use permit. Is there any questions regarding that?
I just make a comment.
This is a question.
It's not closed. yet.
We close after the question
No, you're fine.
period. So just questions, no comments.
Oh.
Unless you can put it in the form of a question.
I'll hold on that.
Okay.
It was leading to a question. but
So on the conditional use permit, any questions? On 2303, the conversion table, is there any questions? So I actually have a question. So this implies, and correct me if I'm wrong, that if a zone is not listed for a specific land use designation, or a land use designation doesn't have a specific code within it, would anyone be allowed to request a rezone to something that wasn't designated? And conversely, is it presumptive that it would be approved if it is on that list?
Sure. So generally speaking, you have these future land use categories and zones that are generally appropriate for those land use categories. So if someone, for example, wanted to apply, they were in a future land use designation that outlined a specific set of zones, and they wanted to apply for a zone that was not within that list, they would have to go through a comprehensive plan amendment to change the future land use designation of that piece of property.
Okay. And if it is on the list, there's other criteria by which the council could deny the rezone?
Correct, but it's usually generally consistent with the, there are specifics that those would go through a review process, and council obviously would have a determination on that. What this is generally saying is that these zones are appropriate for these, within these future land use designations to create that level of clarity. So the short answer is that yes, it would go before council, and council would make a determination on those.
I would just add that, but it wouldn't guarantee.
No guarantees. Anyone else? Okay, so on 2304, the landmarks register procedures, are there any questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
I can direct to Stacy, I imagine, so. I'll try to keep it concise and not offer
That's fine.
comments. So I want to understand correctly. So if I remember correctly, the application of the demolition process is restricted to properties that are either in one of our two districts or that are registered or effectively, right? Something like
On the local landmarks register.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So what the ordinance doesn't address in any way really are structures that would meet that criteria, except they're not located in districts, right?
Right.
Okay, so we have a large number of structures in our community that don't fall within one of these districts that are not protected in any way unless they're registered individually.
Right.
That do not. And I guess my question is that from a historic preservation planner perspective, is that considered acceptable from your, or is this, I guess where I'm going is this a step in the right direction, but we have more work to do, in your opinion?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Which would that include adding more districts?
Well,
Any more districts?
there's different options. What the commission has talked about, and it was kind of my suggestion after I've looked at, there's 86 or 7 certified local governments in Washington, and I've actually looked at 38 of their ordinances at this point. And 4 of them have historic inventories, and it's actually in our code under the powers and duties of this commission to create a historic inventory. And what those can do is when permits come in, it actually would be on our mapping, it would be marked, so people would know, oh, I'm on a historic inventory, and it would be flagged for us as well with permitting. And what those ordinances do is actually in the demolition code, it would apply to listed properties, or there would be an administrative review for properties on the inventory. But that takes, hopefully at our meeting tomorrow, and if not at the next one, they've already been discussing creating a subcommittee to start the inventory, or start working on and approaching, because it'll take, public input, public feedback. This would be something that would have property owner approval to be listed on, and awareness, because that is the challenge as far as addressing all of the other properties that aren't on the list. But almost all of the other ordinances I saw, it only applies to listed properties. So pretty consistent there.
So on the inventory, is it incorrect for me to assume that Landmarks and Design's jurisdiction is limited to the 2 districts? In terms of, now maybe this requires some code change by itself in terms of giving them the ability to work outside those 2 defined districts. Am I completely wrong about that, or?
I mean,
I don't need to go into detail, but I just was assuming that they were limited their jurisdiction, because I've sat on lots of meetings, and they talk a lot about older structures outside those 2 districts that are being lost, but they have no involvement in that.
Yes. Yeah. Part of their job is to encourage listing and education and outreach, and that would be accomplished also through an inventory. So the process has kind of been broken up into 2 parts instead of trying to lump this all under the demolition code update.
Okay, so last point on that. So either listing a parcel or property, or registering it, or potentially creating an inventory would give us the legal leverage to apply some standards to demolition, because without that, there's no legal mechanism for us to force that.
Yeah, unless they're listed on the local register. Currently, there's no, and this is how most of the 32 of them, actually, I just found the number in my 32 of the ordinances I saw so far don't do any sort of demolition review of non-register landmark properties.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I follow up so there's a difference. What was it, a difference between inventory and survey?
That is a good question. So I know you had some questions about surveys that have happened. So what's being proposed tonight is kind of step 1. And then the hope is to develop and adopt a historic inventory. A survey is just how we get the information. It's not, you're inventorying properties and documenting them, but it's nothing official. We have the information for them. So I did provide to you the Shouty district, kind of between like 3rd and 7th, and City Hall's actually in it, was inventoried in 2003, and somewhere over around the railroad was inventoried in 2002. So we have information from those. It's research and it's information. But an inventory would be a list of properties that if someone wants to demolish one of them, or even, there's other uses that are important for an inventory as well, then it would be flagged as something we would take a look at. But that would be adopted down the road. That's not involved now.
So a historic property survey doesn't always lead to a district being defined.
It can. The 2 I didn't quite have time to read the surveys today. They're pretty lengthy, but that's kind of the point of them, is to get enough information to see if it could be qualify as a historic district, but also to develop a historic district. There is a lot of public outreach, and you have to have a certain amount of property owner approval, of course, and buy-in in order to actually create it. So there are some more steps, but that is usually one of the first steps to also creating a district. So that is a direction they could go as well. And that would probably be where the subcommittee will start. When they do discuss some sort of historic inventory, is they would probably start in those districts that have already been surveyed. They were surveyed a while ago, so they'll probably need some new information.
So I also was wondering, so the ordinance only refers to the local landmarks register, but there are several additional properties that are on the national register that are not on the local register. So and those would not be protected in this ordinance.
Unfortunately, national register listing is largely honorary. And when you're on the national register, it doesn't mean you're on the local register. They're two separate processes. So unless it's been also listed on the local register, yeah, the Landmarks Commission, we do a lot of outreach and encouragement, but there's no jurisdiction over those properties.
Okay. And so what's I gonna say? So if something is listed on the local register, to get off the register, when you were saying, it sounds like you just have to do something that is not allowed, and then you get kicked off. And then you could demolish your property because you're not on the register anymore.
Maybe. I mean, there's a lot of different, there are consequences for doing something to a locally listed property without getting a COA or an approval. But if they do, there is a process in the proposed ordinance that addresses, if someone proposes something be delisted, or if the commission finds that something should be delisted because it's been altered or something happened to it, there is a process for that.
Okay. So can you walk us through the demolition permit, the general demolition permit process, and like historic or not, someone just submits this application,
right?
Demolition permit application. What happens?
Right. So they submit it to our building department usually. And are you saying currently or with the proposed?
Well, currently.
Currently, our staff is really good at flagging the older historic properties. So usually they will catch it and send it to me. So I do a lot of extra outreach. Again, we don't have any jurisdiction over saying you have to go see the commission or anything. But if a demolition comes through our office and it looks like it might be historic, or they know it's over 50 years old, I do get sent the address and I take a look and do some research on it and usually reach out to the property owner. I have requested to document a lot of them, and I've gotten to go. I'm starting to document as many as, sometimes I don't hear back from them, but some people are very interested in that. Sadie Thayer at the museum helps do some research, and I've sent that research to people to kind of say, hey, did you know about your property? And that has helped in a few cases as well. So we do try, but it's not a 100% process at this point, because staff would have to always know if it's historic or not. And I can't guarantee every single one is caught at this point.
So it
but
is
if it's
sort of a voluntary process.
Yes, we do our best to just try to administratively help. But if I find that it's not historic or it has been altered to a point where it can't be brought back to have historic integrity, then I believe the only other requirement is rodent abatement for demolition permits. So it just goes through the normal process from there.
And something about utilities.
Yes, of course.
Being
They get shut off.
disconnected before. Okay. Is there any more questions about the landmarks section? Is there any questions regarding the shared driveways?
For the city attorney. Snow removal, parking complaints, even in posted fire lanes on private property, are those complaint driven, or are we patrolling and potentially going to address those proactively from the city's perspective?
You said snow removal. What was the other one?
Blocked fire lanes.
We're not gonna be addressing snow removal on private driveways. Blocked driveways, I don't think we respond to those either if they're on private lanes.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions?
A question. On page 176, under the fire marshal's comments, there's a picture that I guess that illustrates what the point he's trying to make in his comments, and maybe it's for, seems to me like we have developments like this already in our community. Is that?
Yeah, so the current code does have the shared driveway section, which will allow up to 5 lots on a shared driveway.
I believe though the picture is of a public street and not a private driveway.
That's very possible. I'm not sure where exactly the picture came from, but there's clearly more than 5 units on that street. So
Yeah,
I would imagine
I
it's
think
not all of this.
I believe that's Landon Lane.
So to illustrate the width on this lane is wider than a typical driveway. Would that be?
I don't know what the width is on that lane, but I would imagine that generally the roadway standards are going to be wider than the driveway standards.
Any further questions?
So could I ask, I guess for staff, I had a little difficulty, maybe I'm not alone, interpreting the review comments from our fire marshal on page 176 and trying to get a clear read of whether it's city code, IFC, both, some of both, whatever. But it seems pretty clear from the comments that the fire marshal does not support increasing the number of units.
Yes, that was the
from
impression I
5 to
got.
9. And that's strictly based on enforcing the fire lane clearances primarily?
Yeah, there were, and I'm trying to recall specifically, but there were concerns about access, especially during potential snow events. Let's see, the limited parking. These are 15-foot wide driveways. So I think what he was trying to demonstrate in the pictures that people will use the sidewalks at times to because of limited parking, and that was the primary concern that I perceived from the fire marshal, was that he saw potential fire life safety issues in terms of access to these lots.
Thank you.
On a private drive, they would not have sidewalks, correct?
They would not be required under the code section.
Any further questions? Okay. So the public testimony portion of this hearing is now closed. Council may begin its discussion and deliberation of this matter.
Madam Mayor, I move first reading of ordinance 4935. I'm going to make amendments later, but we have to have something to talk about.
Is there a second? Motion and second to conduct first reading of ordinance 4935. If the maker of the motion would like to speak to it.
Yes, so we're dealing with 4 potential amendments, support 3 of them. The only one that I do not support is the driveway width. And just to give some background, I was actually I helped push the amendment to the city code that allowed the flag lot development, which was the 5 lot ruling, which at the time was not supported, in general by the fire code or in practice in the city of Ellensburg. And the rationale behind it was we had a lot of infill lot possibilities. We had flag lots. But I would say that things have changed and, we looked at it as a 5 lot development, 5 houses, now with well-intentioned, sort of unregulated ADU construction. You're not talking about 9 units, you're talking about the possibility of 18. And we don't have control over snow removal and we don't have control over where people park. We do on public streets. And so does it address a need in the community? Absolutely. And are there other things that are creating potential fire code issues with ADUs and 0 lot lines and things like that? Yes, there are. It feels like one where, particularly when I look at the application of properties like this, when you're looking to achieve density, you sometimes attract, significant numbers of residences, cars parking there. And, the fact of the matter is that a lot of our housing is transient housing with, it turns over every year with college students. And sometimes they're not even telling how many people live in the housing. And we have houses up in the north end of town that are houses, supposedly single family dwellings, but they have 9 or 10 occupants. And it creates a significant access issue. And so, I did talk to the fire marshal today. He was unable to attend. I believe he'll be available to come in the next meeting when we do second reading to sort of explain further. But that context of, why the 5 lots was established in the first place was to try and help out, developers and property owners and the city to give them a tool that allowed the flag lots to occur. 9 homes or 9 homes potentially plus another 9 ADUs is more of a neighborhood than a driveway. And that's why at this point I wouldn't support that.
Okay.
So I guess I'll have to make a motion
To amend,
to
remove it.
amend the ordinance.
Remove section.
It would
11.
be, yes, to remove section 11 then from the ordinance.
Move section 11 from the ordinance. That's my motion.
Is there a second?
I'm trying to find section 11 in your.
It's on page 222.
I'll second. For discussion, so
I see.
is there any further discussion regarding any pieces of?
Yeah, I'd like to make,
We have to vote on the amendment.
oh, the
We have to
amendment.
vote on
I'm
the
sorry.
amendment. Well, is there any discussion regarding the amendment? All in favor of removing section 11, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed. I also vote yes. So it sounds like that motion carries. Is there any discussion on any other section?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on a couple items. 2301, the hearings examiner, just from the perspective of the planning commission, I appreciate the work the planning commission's done, and I know they opposed this, but in my prior life, I served as the chair of the planning commission for, I think, 5 years out of my 7 or 8 years. And I can tell you that the struggles that we incurred at that time on the legal side were real. And we went through the land development code in 2007, 2008. And I can tell you that trying to get, no offense to our city attorneys, past or present, when I asked for legal advice from counsel, I was told the attorney is there to represent the council, not the commissions, and to contact MRSC. And that wasn't our current attorney. That was guidance from prior attorneys. So it's always been a challenge, and we were being confronted with paid attorneys representing the applicants and doing the best we could. I wasn't blaming anyone, but it was a very challenging environment. So I really think the hearing examiner is better equipped to deal with this quasi judicial element. So I just want to say that. And then on the demolition ordinance, I think as was indicated, I think this is a good step in the right direction. It doesn't close the gap. We still have a lot of properties that are at risk, and I really expect to see something come out of landmarks and design that would help close that. So I'll support the motion. Yeah.
Anyone else? As I agree on both points, and I think in the interim, if we can screen the properties that do come up for demolition administratively, then we can catch some of those and do the education and possibly persuasion, and at least documentation. And I guess I wouldn't mind seeing another question on the demolition permit that just asks, is the structure over 50 years old? And that would help flag it rather than just relying on staff knowledge. With that, anyone else? All in favor?
Aye.
Of the amended motion?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, as amended.
The motion to approve the ordinance as amended.
Aye.
I too vote aye. Opposed? That motion carries.
An ordinance relating to the City of Ellensburg Land Development Code, Title 15, and amending sections as listed in the ordinance.
Thank you. We are at 9A ordinance 4933. This is the second reading of the utility billing policies and procedures. Page 224.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. Again, I'm Keith Bassett with the city's finance department. Several changes to city code are needed before implementation of the Origin Smart City utility billing software to update policies and procedures to align with industry best practices and update procedures previously limited by the legacy utility billing system. Additionally, authorizing the finance director to temporarily pause initiating the delinquency process for customers during the transition will help ensure that staff are focusing on assisting customers adopt the new payment methods rather than proceeding through the delinquency process with those customers. Additionally, recent changes to state law require an update to utility billing policies and procedures related to reconnection of utility services in periods of extreme weather. As a council, you approved first reading of the ordinance at your last meeting, and staff recommends a motion to conduct second reading and adoption of 4933, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone who would like to speak regarding this issue? Seeing no one, I don't think anyone's on. All right, council, do you have any questions of staff? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Madam Mayor, I move second reading and adoption of ordinance 4933.
Second.
Motion and second for second reading and adoption of ordinance 4933, the utility billing policies and procedures. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Beauchamp,
Yes.
Elliott,
Yes.
Goodlow,
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
Thompson,
Yes.
Lilquist.
Yes.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Ellensburg, Washington relating to Chapter 2.12 Collection of Accounts, Utilities, and amending sections 2.12.20, 2.12.25, 2.14.40, and 9.91, 300 of the Ellensburg City Code.
Thank you. Next is resolution for the pay resolution for 2024.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. My name is Lisa Young, HR Director for the City of Ellensburg. What I have before you tonight is Resolution 2023-31, a pay resolution for fiscal year 2024 for non-represented employees. I believe you have a replacement page for page 236, where you had to do an amendment on the service desk specialist position. A pay resolution is submitted to the council for consideration each year. The resolution, if adopted, will establish the fiscal year 2024 pay scales for non-represented employees. Annual step or merit increases for non-represented employees will be available in 2024 for those who are not at the top of their current pay grade. The resolution includes position changes currently identified for 2024. Ongoing support for establishing competitive pay and benefits for city employees has been supported through council action. In preparation for this resolution, Human Resources and the city manager completed a review of the current non-union pay grades to ensure that we are competitive in the labor market. A review of Consumer Price Index or CPI data was also conducted using All Urban Consumers West CPIU class size BC for June 2022 to June 2023. The recommended cost of living COLA based on the CPI is 3.6%. Public Works and Utilities implemented a temporary construction project manager position in 2023. However, the increasing project workload requires an additional full-time civil engineer position, which is reflected in the resolution. The current temporary construction project manager will assume the new civil engineer position effective January 1, 2024. The civil engineer position will be adjusted from pay grade 28 to pay grade 33 to better align with other city engineering positions. The city attorney's office implemented a legal intern position for the fall quarter of 2023. City HR staff worked with the Law and Justice Program at CWU to conduct a competitive recruitment process. This position was initially unpaid, but as of January 1, 2024, it will be a paid position similar to the city's other intern positions. For financial impact, the estimated financial impact of the fiscal year 2024 pay resolution is as follows, and this is base wages only. For the second civil engineer position, an annual cost of $126,936. For civil engineer alignment of the second position, $14,760. For the legal intern, $12,698. And for the COLA increase, $234,009 for a total of $388,403. The cost of these adjustments will be spread across the various funds that support employee wages and benefits. Additional expenditure authority is included in the supplemental 2023-2024 biennial budget presented to you tonight. Costs for administrative and internal service functions will be charged to beneficiary funds via the standard budget and accounting procedures. Federal COVID-19 response assistance dollars are budgeted to fund the temporary construction project manager position in 2024 and will be used to fund the new regular full-time civil engineer position for 2024. In reference to future costs of the position, general fund resources fund the civil engineer positions in support of the street and arterial street funds. Street operations, maintenance, and capital projects continue to represent a significant and growing use of regular sales tax revenue. The city's success in securing grants to complete capital improvements will be used to fund this position beyond 2024. At this time, staff recommends approval of Resolution 2023-31 with the necessary budget adjustments. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, first, is there anyone from the public who'd like to speak to this issue? Seeing no one, are there questions for staff? I'm sorry, you need to approach and ask the council the question and we'll
Hi,
redirect.
Jennifer Pattison, Kittitas, County of Kittitas. I just couldn't hear the COLA amount, so.
Okay. Can you repeat the
3.6%.
3.6. Council, any questions? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Madam Mayor, I move resolution 2023-31, including the necessary budget amendments.
Second.
Motion and second for resolution 2023-31, including the budget adjustments. And I'm assuming that includes the replacement page. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 I too vote aye. Opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you.
Next is item 11A, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission's annual report and spending plan. Page 243.
Hello, everyone. Nicole Klaus, staff to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission. Today, I wanted to quickly review some of the accomplishments that the commission has had this year, as well as talk about the 2024 spending plan. One of the commission's major events that happened earlier this year was Belonging in the Burg.
It's a community-based a community discussion-based event, and we had about 45 people. They discussed building bridges and how we can build bridges in our community. We had planned to host a second event, but due to some changes with some of our community partners, we just weren't able to make it happen this year. So we're hoping to have 3 of these next year. The DEI Commission also wrote 11 proclamations this year that were either read at city council meetings or posted online. We had the commission visit other city boards and commissions to let them know a little bit about the work that the DEI Commission does, as well as to offer themselves as resources if there's ever a need to review a policy or things like that with an equity lens. So we still have a few more ahead of us to go next year, but we've had some success so far. Also earlier this year, the commission provided volunteer support to the Spring Human Library event, which is where community members can check out people as books who have unique stories to tell. And so we provided some volunteer support. The DEI Commission created and launched a grant program to community organizations for a mix of programming and awareness and things around DEI issues. This was the first year that we had the program, and we kind of started it later in the year. So it was an expedited process, but we had over $14,000 in asks and only had $4,000 to award. So it was pretty competitive. So I'll just kind of go through some of the projects that those funded. As I mentioned, it was for programming, awareness, translation, events, things like that. So it funded the Ellensburg Bill Funds, application being translated into Spanish. Domingos Comunitarios was a community event series for Latinx families in our city. And they said they had over 80 participants, and it was really well attended and everyone had a great time. We had the Fall Human Library event that we also funded, and that was also a great event. And then some events celebrating the first peoples of Kittitas Valley. There was some basket weaving classes and workshop. And then there's also one coming up on December 16th to hear from a local tribal elder. And then the commission expanded this year, as you all know, since you approved it, to add 2 additional members. So we're at a total of 9 members. And then we also added 3 liaison positions, and these are non-voting positions, but they're key community partners that really allow us to help with our community events and bringing everyone together to kind of hit that belonging. So we added Central Washington University, Ellensburg School District, and the Downtown Association. Moving forward, the commission is asking for the remainder of this year's balance, which is about $4,000 to be carried over. And they also asked for an additional $1,200 to achieve some of their goals for next year, which, as you saw, if you read your report, it's quite lengthy list. So they want to increase the grant spending next year to $6,000 and open it earlier in the year to allow for maybe events or programs that take place earlier in the year to apply. They want to also keep some administrative funds on hand for things like translation, which we usually have to pay for, advertising for events, things like that. Some of the programs they plan to do is this year they want to do 4 listening tours with different groups in the community. We want to do BIPOC business days. They want to support the Human Library, and then have Pizza Clutch, which is a support program for LGBTQ youth. And then some of the other events, as I mentioned, they want to do 3 World Cafe events next year. Juneteenth celebration would be new since that's now a city celebrated holiday. They would like to do multicultural day at the farmers market, and then collaborate with probably the Parks and Recreation Commission, maybe the Arts Commission, on a big celebration at Unity Park when we get to that point. So that's what the commission has planned for 2024. And at this time, we would recommend that you accept the DEI Commission's annual report and approve the 2024 spending plan and budget adjustment as proposed.
Is there anyone in the public who'd like to speak to this issue? Go ahead, or please come to the microphone. State your name and residency.
Teresa Plough, Kittitas County. Is more specific, or is that good enough?
That's good.
And let's see, I just noticed that the DEI Commission is getting a lot of members on it. I'm wondering why we need more members. Seem to be pretty balanced before. Is there a greater workload with more events? And I know you can't answer questions. So let's see. More is not always better. Do all the, I've got a concern if this one's getting huge and the other ones, they're vying for people on that commission and then we're not filling commission positions on affordable housing and the other ones. I know that the senior advisory commission ended and I haven't had a chance to ask why that was. I had heard that somebody, that one of the council members responded to a question that I had and a concern. And that there was a new process where the seniors can still be heard, but I'm not clear on what that is. And so I'm just really concerned about the lack of people to fill these commission positions. Whether we've got enough people, and then are these people, I've got to ask, is this like almost a training program for CWU employees that are going into social justice in some of those areas to get their experience and get their name known? We had one or two of them when the DEI opened that became kind of a problem for the community and certain community members. And I don't want to see more of those kind of situations fester and blow up, because I think the multicultural events and the things we're doing are a good thing for our community and I want it to work. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who, any other member of the public would like to speak? Council, do you have questions for staff? Is there a motion?
Madam Mayor, I move that we accept the Diversity of Equity and Inclusion Commission's annual report and approve the 2024 spending plan and budget adjustment as proposed.
Second.
A motion and second to accept the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission's annual report and approve the 2024 spending plan and budget adjustments as proposed. Is there discussion? Yes, you may answer.
Yes, I'd like to provide some response to Teresa's questions, and Nicole, feel free to back me up. But in short, the issue of the 9-member commission, yes, the workload is a lot more than it was. And we felt like if we had 2 more, we could handle that workload better. We also felt like was room for expansion of the diversity of the commission. And so we recommended adding 2 more for that. But there's a lot of ongoing kinds of things and some major events coming up this year for us. So the second question about the liaison and the CWU involvement. Liaison positions are just that. They're liaisons. They're a connection for us to the university with the CWU in particular. They will help co-sponsor and the ESD as well. Help co-sponsor the table discussions that we have, the World Cafes, and they provide voluntary support for that. And we're working with CW very closely right now because the next World Cafe it's scheduled probably in late February or March, will be held on the campus at the CERC. So I hope that provides some information for you. Nicole, do you have anything to add to that?
No. There's only one student currently on the commission. The AAC was disbanded at their request because it wasn't working for them in that formal format. So what they're doing now is coffee with the director, and they have a liaison to the Parks Commission. So we are I was just looking, there's very few commissions that have openings, and the ones that some of them that do are very specific, like the Lodging Tax Commission. You have to be either a hotelier or someone who receives grant funding from that fund. So on page 131 of the agenda, you can see where people are volunteering for our commissions, and everyone has a different interest. So any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 I too vote aye. Opposed?
No.
That motion carries. So 11B is our boards and commission assignments, with the stepping down of Monica Miller and adding Josh Thompson. We can reshuffle our committee assignments, or we can just ask Josh to do that for 1 month and then do that in January, if that is easier. After we elect a new mayor, potentially.
I would support the latter, because I think if everybody takes a month or two, or this month to think about, sort of where their strengths are and maybe changing things up. There are probably a couple that I'd like to see changed, and yes, the mayor has to sit on certain ones, and if that's not you, then it's going to jumble the group anyway. So if Josh is amenable to it, I'd rather see him just fill in for a month, and then in January, we kind of have a thoughtful conversation about putting people where their interests and strengths are.
And Adam isn't here to chime in on what the reshuffling anyway. So, so Josh, if you would cover the finance committee, the
Get right on the fun ones. I'm just saying.
ASCWU BOD Board of Directors liaison, and the Landmarks Commission liaison, and Parks Commission. You get that right? That's correct.
Who maintains this list? Just
Does that
FYI.
work for your time?
Our
for,
office, is city
your
manager's office.
schedule?
One on here, the ASCWU BOD liaison has no meeting time on it, so I couldn't say yes or no without knowing the time.
Well-
I believe all the others were either before or after work and would be just fine.
We'll figure out that time, and I'm guessing they're not gonna meet this month anyway, or if they do,
Likely not.
we can.
Yeah, likely not.
It's fine. So, okay. You're at manager's report.
A very short manager's report. Heidi Barron-Sternaway, your city manager. Just a reminder that this is the big week we've been waiting for and working toward. And it's our go live date for our new utility billing system. So we'll have some service changes as we end the week. On Thursday of this week, we'll have just in person, we'll close down our electronic portal. So if you're making utility payments, you'll need to come into City Hall and make those payments. On Friday, we'll just do just urgent, shutoffs or just urgent services. And on Monday, the front counter for the utility billing will be closed. City Hall will be open, but utility billing will be closed on Monday, and then open again the rest of the week as our staff help new customers set up new accounts and get new services and get online with our new system. So we're pretty excited about that.
And then finally, just a reminder for our executive session, we have 2 executive sessions. Staff recommendation is about 10 minutes for both of those items and no action is expected after that.
Thanks. Just a question. So if I have automatic payment, I can't create a new account until after this week?
After December 11th, you'll need to
Okay.
create a new account. And I think there is, we have a trial group. So if you're one of those, you'll be contacted early to help us test the new system.
Thanks. Councilmember Boshaw, do you have a report?
I do not. All of my stuff is coming up.
Okay. It's
Good.
like, we didn't do one last time, so like we can double, we can do like 4
Triple
weeks.
next meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Councilmember
Uh,
Elliott.
similar, most of my meetings are coming up, just a couple of items. Again, we're still pushing forward, with trying to stabilize and come up with a long-term plan for KitCom and just, for viewers and for council members, just recognize that KitCom is effectively a co-op, where all of the public safety entities and even some additional entities like Public Works and things have joined this co-op to run mostly our 911 system, but the radio communication system and paging system. That's not all they do, but the entity itself is going to be temporarily without a long-term leader. That's going to be me for hopefully a short period of time. There is some infrastructure issues that will be discussed at the Board of County Commissioners study session at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, and potentially a ballot measure for that. And we're working on staffing, so I'm recruiting anybody who will multitask and handle that job. That's not me. Just FYI, our fire code official, Fire Marshal Joe Delbo, will retire at the end of this month. So the city will have to appoint a new fire code official. And we hope from KBFR's perspective to have a potential candidate for the council to consider in early January. So there won't be a gap, significant gap in that role. And then finally, I was asked a couple of times, I think the person who asked me repeatedly has left, but they were concerned we were talking about fire lanes and things like that, and that we weren't holding this facility to the fire code, which is a posted occupancy load. And I looked around here, couldn't find it. It's outside the building. It's always been there. So just for FYI, it was there. It always has been there. I didn't know where it was. So we're good.
Okay. I don't think we've bumped up against that threshold for a while. Councilmember Bidwell.
Yes, attended the Homeless Affordable Housing Committee meeting today, the county committee that has the funding to support housing for the county. We agreed to fund a project that was submitted by the IOC folks. If you remember, this past year, we annexed that property for development of affordable housing for the IOC group around the cemetery.
Yeah,
Around the
Odd
cemetery.
Fellows.
Yeah. Oddfellows. Anyway, we approved funding for the first phase of that development. They are hoping to go through all the preliminary projects and things they have to do to get that project going as soon as they possibly can. It will include residential housing for 1 and 2 bedrooms and 2 and 3 bedrooms. So there'll be kind of a mix. And I forgot how many units they said. Do you recall? 20 to 30 units. But it'll be a mix of 1 to 2 bedroom houses and 2 to 3 bedroom houses. We also heard a report from the consultants who are doing the sleep center project for us, and they'll be coming to city council very soon. So we got to see cost figures, particularly for that. And it was an interesting report. It sounds like they've covered their bases really well. They've done a lot of research and they did a lot of surveys and community outreach in the development of the plan. And then Councilmember Miller and I met with city manager and our city attorney last week to begin a discussion about how can we proceed with conversations with council to see, is there a role for the city council to address the nutrition issues in our community? And if so, how can we start those conversations? And I felt really good about the meeting, and I'm sure y'all will be hearing more about that later.
Good. Councilmember Noel.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll go back to my old list. This is from a couple of meetings ago. So it seems like a long time ago now, but it's within the last few weeks. So I attended the Arts Commission meeting in November. Just follow on from there, what I would say was a very successful grant award session. Then I attended a couple of Veterans Day events. I was downtown, watched the parade, and then I made my way up to the Hill and had a hot dog at the American Legion, and got a really good view of how the facility is used and just how busy it gets there, and that was helpful. It was a good event, packed house, I would say. And then I, along with a couple of other council members, Mayor Locust, Councilmember Beauchamp, attended the screening of a documentary, Unseen, that was shown here in town. Thank you for the information on that. And it was a very moving documentary, but I think the conversation that followed with the community members, and it was a small group of probably 30 or 40 people, I thought it was remarkable. And I thought I was happy to be able to attend, learn a little bit more about that subject and just how challenging it is. And thanks to Robin Reed and everyone at County Community Health to organize that. And then on the same evening, I think we covered a lot of the same territory, some of us. I attended the League of Women Voter Forum on Affordable Housing, which we had a great panel. Sarah Betzall spoke on behalf of our commission. Dave Sturgill spoke on behalf of the Oddfellow project, or just his, he spoke on behalf of the County Affordable Housing Commission. And then Susan Grindle spoke on behalf of HopeSource, and it was well attended and lots of activity in that area. So see a lot of people involved in that. So I think we're heading towards some hopefully some more success in that area. So appreciate everyone. And it was also well attended. I think a lot of the folks that were there were coming from all different perspectives, a lot of staff representation too. And then I attended the PTAC meeting a couple of weeks ago, and just as I've been saying for several months now, the 2023 numbers across the board are looking very good. Our ridership numbers on the transit system, primarily routes, the route numbers are all up nearly double digits over last year. So good growth in the system, I think. So something to be happy about. So that's all I have. And I'm on the road for the next 4 days. So I hope I don't miss any meetings this week. So I've got work to take care of. So
Good luck traveling in.
Well, yeah, that's part of the fun. Yeah, that's fine. Thanks.
Mr. Thompson, do you have anything to report?
My gratitude for everybody who's helped me so far. It's been it's drinking from a fire hose for sure, but Heidi and Cindy and Terry and the police department went visited the police department, did a tour. Got a few more tours coming up, just trying to understand government at that level, and I'm really looking forward to being here and being productive and really just what we're all trying to do, make life good for citizens of Ellensburg. So thank you.
Well, welcome to the council. And I'll just Actually, I have a long list. I think the next step for the sleep center project is an open house, not coming to council, but it will eventually come to council. But we'll do some more outreach first. I did attend a flag and banner stakeholders meeting. We're still learning how things are done. There'll be a draft ordinance and another stakeholders meeting before we forward that to council. And I'm not sure the schedule on that, but the UAC, we reviewed the sustainability plan. That is going to the DEI Commission and the Environmental Commission in this for their December meetings. And I just want to note that in the electric system plan that we approved on the consent tonight, there's some tasks that we don't normally see, like evaluating the load for electric vehicles and the load that we're going to see for gas switching, demand management and BPA line capacity, things like that, that are part of the new environment of electrify everything. I attended the Thanksgiving dinner and did receive a kudos to the Adult Activity Center Director, Caitlin, for their work on that event. And I attended a natural gas pipeline emergency training with a bunch of firefighters and KidCon staff. But it was very, no, especially when you called me out. It was very informative and a little scary. And I attended the accountability audit entrance. So we are again being audited by the Secretary of State's office. And I think you all got that notice, but if you're interested, I have information about that. So with that, we will go to executive session for per RCW 42.30.1101I. To discuss with legal counsel. Is both of these are litigation?
Two matters, one potential litigation, one actual litigation.
Potential litigation and actual litigation. So we will be 20 minutes, 10 minutes. Do we expect action?
No, no actions.
No action after. Okay, we're going to take a 3-minute break and then start our executive session. 3 minutes. Meant to put a post-it note on the same return.
Some quiet.
With no further business, we're adjourned.
Yes, you did. Yeah, no, you didn't. Just about it.
We're adjourned.
Okay, yeah, I did. Yeah, it was pretty relaxing. It was quiet.